All right, hey everybody. So when your people left session 2, you asked them for some data. So you have view-only rights to the data right there, and you can sort out your people and put them in groups and then figure out what makes the most sense to you. How do you want to get them in those groups? If you want to have something on your smart board, or if you want to color their name tags or whatever you want to do. I think we put color dots or something beside the sign-in sheet, and we also had it on the board as well. And you're going to want to have those tabs open because you'll need them throughout the discussion. Go ahead and put the station rotation in Google Classroom. It's also linked in the participant version and in your copy, but as you guys know, some people like to get it from one place and some the other. Also, go ahead and give them the participant copy. Stick that in Google Classroom. There's a lot of really important information here on this slide. Check it out at your convenience. And let's begin. So,
as they're walking in, you might want to think about having conversations with them, ask them about where they're at with their projects. So we're going to have a whole class reflection at the beginning here, but really just to get them thinking, we put the sign-in sheet at the place where all of our stuff was lurking around so we could talk to them as they were coming in to get them to start thinking about their project. Please, if there's something that's wrong here or you think something could be improved, please let us know.
All right, so workflow. Workflow was covered in detail in the pre-Embark session, so we are not going into detail here. But you do have an opportunity to point out that your coach can meet with the individual people. And if you're interested in learning more about Nearpod, Seesaw, ClassKick, any of those other things, that's a job for the coach. But we are keeping this discussion very generic, very big picture. And you want to focus around like, how is the student going to get the links and the resources that you have prepared? And more importantly, how are you going to get them back from the students? And in a lot of cases, especially in the elementary school classrooms, the kids are just going to do the work on the iPad, and then the teacher's going to go look at the iPad. And that is totally fine. But what we don't want to happen is for the teachers to walk in without a plan. So I told them a story about how you could email all of your students and have them write a piece of paper, and then all the students can email you their papers when they're done writing them. But that's archaic, and that's like having a carrier pigeon be your workflow solution. It works, but it's not the best. So it's worth taking a time to really think this through, especially since we're asking them to do a blended learning lesson. There is a question in there asking them that, what is your workflow solution? So we are just kind of covering the basics of what workflow solutions are, giving them some ideas and highlighting the coach. And then we are saying, for our class, we're using several workflow solutions and being explicit about how we point that out. So we are using Google Classroom, but there are also links within this presentation itself, and that in a way is a workflow. And then we're also giving them sites. And when they go to the site, there are links there to Flipgrid and other stuff. And in a way, that is also a workflow solution. So just having the people be really cognizant of how they're getting the information and how they're giving it back to me and having a discussion around that. But don't go into specifics. Don't open up your Google Classroom page here. Don't give everybody a lesson on Seesaw because not everybody wants to hear that. Just highlight the coach. Right? Okay. Which takes us to slide 4. This is your grouping. Just get them into groups. You might actually skip over this slide depending on what you did already, but we wanted to make sure that you were able to group your people, and you might even be really transparent here about the difference between stations and blended learning, and that is grouping your kids off of data. So for people who want to really talk about that, go for it. Do it.
I think that's probably a good lesson for the teachers so that they have those reminders as they're thinking about planning out their own blended learning. So you really want to be as transparent as you can with them. That brings us to slide 5.
Well, what we have is mini lessons. We got 2 mini lessons first, and I was explicit about the fact that we are going to have a mini lesson right now, and the first part of our mini lesson is background knowledge, and you can see what it is there. And then I said, now we're going to transition our mini lesson to talk about logistics. And I told them what we would be doing today and where the stations were located and how much time they had in each place. And we are asking the teachers to do a mini lesson before their blended learning activity, and it doesn't matter if their mini lesson is logistical or background knowledge, but that is why I'm asking you to be explicit about the fact that you are giving a mini lesson right now.
Once you've done the mini lesson parts, you're going to go into the station rotation, and it's linked down here at the bottom. It's also linked on the coach support site if you've been using that.
It's also linked in the participant version, and the notes in the beginning asked you to throw it in Google Classroom, so there's lots of different ways that people can get there. And they don't need edit rights on this. They just need preview or view only, because they're not actually doing anything within this. They're just clicking on links.
Right. I think we use preview to show them what that might look like for students. So that was an interesting thing for some of them. So if you are unfamiliar with that, if you go up to the top here, how I just changed it from edit or from preview to view or copy to view, if you back this out and type in preview, this is how it will change. So notice that this stuff's all here right now. Once we put it in preview mode, you can't see any of that anymore. So that's an interesting thing for teachers to know so that those things don't distract their kids.
It's a good thing for them to know too, just generally.
Okay, so in this you see the rotation document. This one is clearly in a Google Docs, so they get to see that during this class period. You can see the different rotations up here. It has the overview as well. So each of these rotations is going to be 18 minutes with 2 minutes for a transition. And like we've talked about before, try to play music during the 2-minute transition because it's good modeling for them and it's a good trigger to know that it's time for them to wrap up.
Make sure you're reading through all these so you know what we're doing in each one, but let's head over to Station 2 because that's the teacher-led, and we'll do some detailed work here. So remember, you put your people in groups and you've grouped them by math, English, social studies, science, and then other. And the reason for that is because your conversation with these math, English people with that specific adaptive digital content is going to be totally different than your conversation with your science, social studies people. So for those of you who are elementary or maybe don't understand why we're saying this, that none of those products is totally appropriate for a high school science teacher. That we had to come up with something else. And so just take a look at all the resources, see kind of where we've led the conversation for you and kind of set it up for you to go in. But it's time to explore. It's time to ask questions. Most of your answers are going to be like ours were, which are you have a coach at your school who can help you answer these questions, or actually, this is perfect. See where Kendra at the top, we have put links for digital content up here at the top, like when are training dates, the CCSD Adaptive Digital Content website. So we have all the things here for you, and we have not set it up, nor do we expect you to know everything about iReady or everything about No Red Ink. So yes, your conversation will be different with these people, but you are not expected to have all of the answers.
No, and so all of these documents are editable by anyone in CCSD. So we're encouraging teachers to add things that they are using to it, but also to use this as a resource so that it can pull something to use in their station rotation. So there's something that will work for hopefully whatever it is they're trying to do. So there are ones for pretty much every content, and there's at least 2 or 3 resources in each one of those things. So they'll have some time to explore those. Then you're going to have a facilitated discussion. The questions are all there. Then you're going to do some exploration with purpose. So have them really with the frame of mind for looking at these and thinking about the rotation that they're going to build. You can see at the end there's a group accountability task. So this is all verbal. They're going to share something out.
All right, so let's not spend too much time on the rotations because they can read it. I guess let us know if you think that we've gone in the wrong direction, but so far we've got a lot of positive feedback from this. We did receive feedback about one of our questions, and the assessment portion was kind of the circle of death loop and wouldn't let people progress, so we have fixed that. Thank you for your feedback. But if you notice anything else, just let us know. I am encouraging you, again, read through it all and see what they're doing in those other stations.
So in this one, we are on slide 6, debriefing the experience they had during the rotations and the learning that they had. You can read the exact things that we're asking them to do, but you're debriefing Flipgrid because that's what they're doing in their collaborative station, and that's the one new tool for this class. So you really want to talk about Flipgrid for a little bit and talk about what instructional purpose it might serve in their classrooms. In terms of the accountability tasks, we're really trying to get at the work that they're doing for their final project, so really try to keep the discussion around that. You can see that stuff continues about what they did or didn't like about the way that they learned today, and the resources that we talked about at the teacher-led station. We're not trying to turn that into a conversation about adaptive digital content because, as Lacey already pointed out, some people aren't going to have that as an option. So we just want to have an opportunity for people to share some of the higher rated resources that came up during their discussions.
All right, which takes us to the next slide. This is pretty much the rest of your class. This is time to get some work done on your blended learning planning sheet or on your lesson itself. They do have an accountability task, which you saw on slide 1 to throw that in Google Classroom. We are learning how to take a screenshot of our work that we have accomplished and upload that screenshot to Google Classroom. So we have some resources built in here for you. We ran into a little snag because Kendra and I did not memorize how do you take a screenshot on Chromebook and Dell, etc. Nor should we need to, which means that you don't have to memorize it. You have this resource here for you that we made that you can just open up, throw on your screen, give people the directions, say we're going to spend the next 15 or 20 minutes working, but when you're done, you need to take a screenshot, have this on your screen, and let them work collaboratively or individually or whatever, and learn how to take a screenshot of their work. And you can even use this as, talk about how you might do this in your own classroom. You might want to have kids take a screenshot or a snapshot of what they accomplished in a day.
And we found that some of our teachers really needed over-the-shoulder support with this, so plan that you and your co-instructor will be doing some support with this because many of them didn't really understand how this works. But once they did, they were happy to know how to do it because many of them had been wondering. The Awesome Screenshot will work on pretty much any device except for iPads, so that could be a really easy go-to for everyone.
All right, and then let's take them to the last slide because you are really going to want to emphasize that they need headphones for session 4. I mean, we say that they need them every time, but they really do need them for session 4. But you might also kind of want to give them a heads up on where we're going, that they'll have some authentic time to work during session 4, and that they really do want to pull up this purple sheet and fill in any holes that are still there because it will be beneficial to that for them if they come with specific questions, as opposed to sitting around and then coming up with the questions as they're sitting there. You'll really increase engagement and your effectiveness if you can give them a heads up about what's going to be happening next time.
So as always, please let us know what questions or issues you run into. We're here to support you, and our goal is to make this as good as it possibly can be. So thanks for listening.